So hello students, we will be discussing the equivalence of Riemann's and Darboux approach to integration. So in the earlier videos we have seen how the Riemann's approach to integration is defined using Riemann sums of tagged partitions. Okay, so in this video we will see that the Riemann's approach and the Darboux approach to integration that uses the lower sum and upper sum approach are actually equivalent. Okay, so we have this theorem: a function f from ab to r is said to be is Darboux integrable if and only if it is Riemann integrable. Okay, so Darboux integrability necessarily implies Riemann integrability, and Riemann integrability necessarily implies that the function is Darboux integrable. Okay, so let us start with a Darboux integrable function. Let f be Darboux integrable. Then f is bounded, because we know Darboux integrability is defined only for bounded functions. So f is bounded, and the lower integral and upper integral, they are equal. Okay, and their the common value is integration a to b f dx. So we need to prove that f is Riemann integrable. That means for each epsilon there exists a delta greater than 0, such that for every tagged partition P, the difference between SPF minus some number I is less than epsilon. Okay, that is what we have to show. So what is SPF? SPF was summation of f of Ti into delta Xi. If you refer to the earlier video, you will understand. Okay, so we start with an epsilon greater than 0. Then by the Darboux condition of integrability, there exists a delta greater than 0, such that for every partition P of AB with norm P less than delta, UPF is strictly less than a to b upper integral plus epsilon, which is same as a to b f dx plus epsilon. Okay, and LPF is strictly greater than integration lower integral of a to b f dx minus epsilon. Okay, so this we have already done in the earlier lectures. So this condition is satisfied. So let us name these conditions as 1. Next we take any tags. Okay, so let Ti, we add tags Ti to the interval xi minus 1 to xi, such that for such a partition P. Okay, then since f is bounded function, so it will have the infimum and supremum in each sub interval. Okay, so I have not written them explicitly here, so you may write it that small mi and capital Mi are the infimum and supremum of f in the interval xi minus 1 to xi. So since they are infimum and supremum, every value of the function in this interval will lie between Mi and capital Mi. So in particular, for any tags Ti, okay, these are any tags Ti, we will have this inequality: Mi less than or equal to f of Ti less than or equal to capital Mi. So you multiply both sides by multiply all the sides by this delta xi, that is the length of the interval. Then we have this inequality. Okay, and then we can take the sum. So summation of Mi delta xi is less than or equal to summation of f of Ti into delta xi. This is nothing but S P dot f. Okay, the Riemann sum for the tagged partition P. Okay, so this is LPF, as you know. This is the SPF, and this is the UPF. Okay, so this is actually I had not written it here. This is actually P dot f, SPF for the tagged partition. Okay, right. Okay, so from 1 and 2, what we see, 1 was UPF is strictly less than a to b f dx plus epsilon. 2 and LPF is strictly greater than this. So if you compare 1 and 2, we will see that this SPF is actually strictly less than this quantity, and it is greater than this quantity. Okay, so you bring a to b f dx to the middle side, then minus epsilon less than this minus and which is less than plus epsilon. Okay, so modulus of this quantity is less than epsilon. Okay, so this means that f is Riemann integrable, because this quantity summation I goes from 1 to n f of Ti delta xi, it is SPF, the Riemann sum. Okay, with respect to any tagged partition. Okay, we had selected any tags. Next we add tags Ti for such partition. Okay, So we see that for every partition P with every tagged partition. Okay, so sorry, I made a mistake here. Every tagged partition. Okay, so from 1 and 2 we have for every tagged partition P with norm P less than delta, we have this condition is satisfied. That means f is Riemann integrable. Okay, so f is Riemann integrable only when there exists a number I which satisfies this condition. Okay, so here this number I is a to b f dx, the Darboux integral. Now the converse part, conversely let f be Riemann integrable. So there exists an I inside R such that for each epsilon greater than 0 there exists a delta greater than 0 such that sp dot f minus I less than epsilon for every tagged partition pi p dot of ab with norm p less than delta. Okay, this is the definition for Riemann integrability. Okay, so let us denote this by this star. Okay, so we first show that f is bounded. Okay, so in the definition of Riemann integrability you will observe that if you see the earlier video you will observe that for the definition of Riemann integrability we did not use or we did not mention that f is bounded. Okay, so it actually follows from this definition. We will see. We first show that f is bounded. So assume that f is not bounded. So we will arrive at some contradiction. So since for every epsilon there is a delta, so for particularly for epsilon equal to 1 there is a delta greater than 0 such that sp dot f minus I is less than 1 for every tagged partition p dot of ab with norm p dot less than delta. Okay, so what is SPF? Norm of mod of SPF? It will be mod of sp dot f minus I plus I. Okay, and then by triangle inequality we can separate. This is less than or equal to this plus I, and this quantity is less than 1. We have seen here because for we have taken epsilon equal to 1. So that means for every tagged partition p dot with norm p dot less than delta, we have sp dot f, that is the Riemann sum is less than mod I plus 1. Okay, right. So this is what I have specifically written here. This is what we have got, that mod of SPF, that is the Riemann sum is less than mod I plus 1 for every partition p dot of AB with norm p dot less than delta, and the delta that we got after taking epsilon equal to 1. Okay, so now let Q be a partition of AB with norm Q less than delta. Okay, then this condition 3 is also satisfied for the partition Q. Okay, and let Q equal to x0 x1 up to xn. So since f is not bounded in AB, we had assumed that f is not bounded, so f is not bounded in at least one of the subintervals. Okay, because if it is bounded in all subintervals then it is automatically bounded in AB. Okay, so if it is not bounded in AB, that means f is not bounded in at least one of the subintervals. Okay, and so we take that subinterval to be, let f be not bounded in xk minus 1 to xk. Okay, suppose that f is not bounded in this subinterval. Now we choose tags for Q as ti equal to xi. The tag ti we choose it as xi for I not equal to k, and for tk we have not mentioned anything as of now. Okay, so we have chosen the tags ti as xi for I not equal to k. Okay, for tk we will choose something different. Okay, so now we observe that what is sq dot f? It is a summation of f of ti xi minus 1 plus f of tk multiplied with xk minus 1. Okay, so this the first summation does not include the value for I equal to k. Okay, or value for the index I equal to k. Okay, so what is f of ti? So we have actually fixed ti. Instead of keeping ti arbitrary, we have fixed ti. Okay, because we are looking for some partition, for some fixed tagged partition. Okay, so we have fixed f of ti as f of xi plus this is f of tk delta xk. Okay, and now we will take the modulus of this. So modulus of sq dot f is modulus of this plus this, and this is greater than or equal to mod of this minus mod of this. So here I have just used another form of triangle inequality. Okay, we have used this mod of a plus b is always greater than or equal to mod A minus mod B, minus mod B. This inequality we have used. Okay, so this is, so here I have taken A as this and B as this. Okay, the other way. There is a reason for that. So this quantity is greater than or equal to this minus this. Okay, now can I show that this is greater than mod I plus 1. Okay, so we'll see that this is in fact possible since f is unbounded on xk minus 1 to xk. So what does it mean? The value of f of x can be made as large as possible inside the interval xk minus 1 to xk. That is the meaning of unbounded, right? F is unbounded, that means mod f can be made as large as possible. So we can choose this tk in such a way that mod of f of tk into delta xk is greater than this particular quantity. Okay, since f is unbounded, we can find, or we can make f of x greater than any given quantity. Okay, that can be done because f is unbounded, right? So in particular we choose tk such that f of tk is strictly greater than this particular quantity. Okay, hence from 4 and 5, now you compare 4 and 5. So if we take this to the other side, so we will have mod of f of tk into delta xk minus summation of this is strictly greater than mod I plus 1. So from 4 and 5 we see that q dot is the rect partition of AB with norm q dot less than delta. Okay, q was chosen such that norm q dot is less than delta. Next we have also found out or given we have also given some tags to the partition q. Okay, and we have seen that for those tags the Riemann sum is strictly greater than mod I plus 1. But this contradicts 3. Why does it contradict 3? 3 says that for any tagged partition p dot of AB with norm p dot less than delta, the Riemann sum is strictly less than mod I plus epsilon. Okay, but here what I have got a tagged partition of AB, that is q dot with norm q dot less than delta, but the Riemann sum is strictly greater than mod I plus 1. So this contradicts 3. So hence our assumption was wrong. Okay, why this contradiction has come? It has come for this particular thing. Since we have assumed that f is unbounded, only because of this we could select f of tk is greater than this. That means our assumption was wrong. So f must be bounded. Okay. So now that f is bounded, so let for any partition p of AB, mi is supremum of fx, small mi is infimum of fx. Now I have to show that this upper and lower integrals are equal. Okay. So let norm p is less than delta. Okay, the delta that we had already got from there. Okay, for each epsilon, we can find some delta which satisfies this, right? So that delta. So let norm of p less than delta. We choose the tags ti in xi minus 1 to xi such that f of ti is strictly greater than mi minus epsilon by b minus a. Why this is possible? This is possible by definition of supremum. Okay, capital Mi is the supremum of f of x in the interval xi minus 1 to xi. So supremum is the least upper bound. So any quantity less than mi cannot be an upper bound. Okay, that means it cannot be an upper bound means what? There is at least one x inside this interval for which f of x is greater than mi minus epsilon by b minus a. Okay, so we will take that particular x as ti. Okay, so it's very easy. We can choose the tags in such a way that f of ti is strictly greater than capital Mi minus epsilon by b minus a. Okay, that can be done. Now multiply both sides by delta xi again. So f of ti delta xi is greater than mi delta xi minus epsilon by b minus a into delta xi. So and then take the sum. This sum is SPF, the Riemann sum. This sum is the upper sum, UPF, and this epsilon by b minus a multiplied with this quantity. This quantity is nothing but b minus a. We have seen several times. This is just the length of the subintervals. Okay, length of all the subintervals. Okay, so ultimately we have got the Riemann sum is strictly greater than the upper integral minus epsilon. Why this is so? Because upper integral is the infimum of all upper sums. So UPF, any given UPF is always greater than or equal to the upper integral. Okay. So we have shown that the Riemann sum is strictly greater than upper integral minus epsilon. Okay. So now star gives that I minus epsilon is, so just break the modulus from the star. So it says that I minus epsilon is strictly less than S P dot F less than I plus epsilon. Okay, this is satisfied for every partition P dot with norm P dot less than delta, and we have already taken norm P dot less than delta. Okay, we have already taken this here. So that from start this is already satisfied. Okay. So so what we have, so from 6 and 7 what can you conclude? From 6 and 7 we can conclude, see, SPF is strictly greater than this, and from 7 we have SPF is strictly less than I plus epsilon. So if you combine them, we can write I plus epsilon is strictly greater than A to B upper integral minus epsilon. Okay. So upper integral is strictly less than I plus twice epsilon. Okay, but epsilon is arbitrary. So we had already done one result in the second semester. If A is strictly less than B plus epsilon, B plus some epsilon for every epsilon greater than 0. Okay, for any arbitrary epsilon. So here also this epsilon is arbitrary. So for any arbitrary epsilon, this quantity upper integral is strictly less than I plus that arbitrary epsilon. Okay. So if A is less than B plus epsilon for every epsilon, okay, then what is our conclusion? A should be less than or equal to B. Then A is less than or equal to B. Okay, that is the thing. So this can be proved very easily if you don't remember. Suppose A is greater than B, then what happens? A minus B is greater than 0. So you take epsilon is A minus B. So but by this condition A should be less than B plus epsilon. So A is less than B plus A minus B. That means A is less than A, but that is a contradiction. A cannot be less than A. A is actually equal to A. So whenever we have this type of situation, some quantity is less than another fixed quantity plus any arbitrary epsilon or any multiple of epsilon. Okay, then since epsilon is arbitrary, our conclusion will be this quantity is less than or equal to this. Okay, it cannot be greater than this. Okay, so similarly we can take Ti to be such that by definition of infimum we can take it this way: Ti less than Mi plus epsilon by B minus A, and show that the lower integral is greater than or equal to I. Okay, so from 8 and 9 we can conclude that I is less than or equal to this lower integral, less than or equal to the upper integral, less than or equal to I. Okay, so this will imply that they are equal. Okay, because this side, the lower side and the upper side, they are same. Okay, so whatever is in between should be equal to this I only. Okay, so lower integral is equal to upper integral equal to I. That means the function f is Darboux integral. Okay, and also from the proofs of the necessary and sufficient parts, it is seen that the values of Riemann and Darboux integral are the same. Because from here we see that I is actually equal to this lower integral and upper integral, and from the earlier part we see that the quantity A to B f dx, the Darboux integral, satisfies the condition of Riemann integrability. Okay, so this the value of I in the Riemann integral is actually the value of the Darboux integral that we have done. Okay, so they are equivalent. These two definitions are equivalent. Okay. So we are almost towards the end of the first two units. So we will be left with the fundamental some mean value theorems and the fundamental theorem of integral calculus. Okay, that I will do in the next lecture. Okay, so till then please study these things. Thank you.